Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion following the events of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 13. And today, I want to pull up a chair and I want to talk to you guys about the reveal that we got of Kashin Koji having won a Shibi Shinjutsu and Kawaki finding the toad that belonged to Kashin Koji is the start of something larger in the grand scheme of things due to the impact of what this one scene is going to have moving forward when you read in between the lines. So jumping right into it, as we learned in chapter 13, when Kashin Koji was on the brink of death during his battle with Ishiki, Kashin Koji awakened the Shinjutsu that belonged to Shibi, the Otsutsuki who became a god, which is the power of the 10 directions. Understanding the significance of this power, it is important to better make the connection to Amado. So allow me to explain what I mean. This is what allowed Kashin Koji to see the future events that have not yet transpired. He saw omnipotence before it was ever casted. He used that ability to figure out his memories of Boruto and Kawaki were altered, just as we said in advance that they were, and this in turn turned Kashin Koji into a valuable source of information, an invaluable source of information to provide to Boruto as his mentor, because he not only saw every possible future, but he's seen every possible future version of Boruto in terms of what jutsu those Borutos have mastered and how they each failed in the futures he saw. Due to the future not being a straight path, Kashin Koji's 10 direction let him see every alternate possibility that occurred from Ishiki killing Naruto and harvesting a chakra fruit, which this future was avoided during the battle due to the different decisions that were made. Kashin Koji saw one possible outcome where Kawaki killed Sarada and Boruto. Omnipotence wasn't casted and Code ended up harvesting a chakra fruit. This future was avoided as well. In nearly every possible future Kashin Koji saw, outside of a few, Code loses control of the 10 tails and an army of them. They are built, and Boruto ultimately ends up dying in battle against Jura, and Kawaki is the one who ends up being ate by the 10 tails. Boruto and Kashin Koji right now are trying to prevent those possible futures from ever taking place. Think of this like the power being very similar to the power of that priestess from the Naruto Shippuden movie who asked Naruto to have kids with her at the end. She was able to see a possible future where someone would die because her eyes, they work like a kaleidoscope. Only whereas Kashin Koji was able to see multiple potential futures, she only saw the one, and when her soul is projected back to the present, she was able to give information on how someone would die, and so far she's only been wrong in one instance, which that was the death of Naruto, which never took place because Naruto, a boy who has a tendency to change fate, ended up doing just that. A power in this case, this broken, is something that Amado would have known that that's what he was purposely implanting into Kashin Koji. Every car in her was given Shibi's DNA, yet none of them awakened Shinjutsu at all. Yet not all of them awakened Shinjutsu. Notice the pattern of the ones who did awaken Shinjutsu. They were kept alive either intentionally by Amado or they survived after Amado thought that they were destroyed. The ones who did awaken Shinjutsu, Jigen said, yeah, they gotta go because I see what you're trying to do. The former category obviously being Code, who Amado placed limiters on him, which Code accepted out of loyalty to Jigen, the vessel of Ishiki. And in the other case, Ada and Damon were supposed to be destroyed because they possessed Shinjutsu and they were stated to be stronger than Jigen. Yet, due to some unknown reason, Ada was able to charm Boro and escape being destroyed, and she and her brother were sealed away, which again, I say unknown reason because we don't know how they got sealed away, despite the fact that they should scale over Boro. The ones who did not awaken Shinjutsu as Shibi, they were viewed as being expendable. Victor was an inner, so presumably he would have had the same stuff transplanted into him and he was killed off. Boro was an inner and he was set to be killed by Boruto on Team 7, and really and truly, it would have been Sasuke if Amado's plan had gone exactly as he predicted. Delta, for obvious reasons, she was kept alive. Kashin Koji, he was the one viewed as expendable, and so he was sent to die fighting against Ishiki. Amado never does something without reason, and that brings me back to Kashin Koji, the guy who survived when he shouldn't have. It's been 3 years, yet Kashin Koji has never made an attempt to contact Amado. Granted, Kashin Koji saw a future way too dire to be concerned with confronting Amado over sending him on a suicide mission. You know, just given the guy just saw the whole world ending multiple different ways, multiple possible future outcomes, and he needed to game plan using all the information he gained from seeing all those possible futures and come up with a way to prevent any of those outcomes from taking place. Again, they're possible futures, they're not alternate timelines. However, it's worth noting that Kashin Koji, still not seeing Amado and Boruto now being captured, makes this whole thing a lot trickier, and it raises eyebrows on Amado being even more sus than we ever imagined. Kawaki saw the toad that Boruto had. He recognized it as being Kashin Koji's toad because why wouldn't he? Kashin Koji was the one who was right there helping raise Kawaki while he was in car and he was being groomed to be a perfect vessel for Ishiki's revival when Jigen finally fed himself to the Ten Tails and Ishiki would have been revived using Kawaki's power. However, Kawaki also has the capability and the cover to bring up Boruto possessing Kashin Koji's toad for this one reason. Boruto and Team 7, they had already made contact with Kashin Koji before. They know that the guy uses toads. They saw him blow up toads and set Konohamaru on fire. Yet, nobody is going to bat an eye that this is Naruto's supposed son, because again, Omnipotence, where he says that he recognized the toad. If anything, it's going to be expected because before Omnipotence was casted, Boruto, as we all know, was being praised as being a second coming of Minato and being very similar to Sasuke. His observational skills, they were enough that it wouldn't sound crazy if he perceived something like this about someone they just captured, and Kawaki would know he's got that level of goodwill. Kawaki has cover here to raise this information without skepticism, and because it's dealing with Car and because Boruto has handcuffs on him that Amado made, there's a high likelihood that Amado is going to be right there when Boruto's interrogated. It's going to be some uncomfortable questions that have to start being asked, like how did Boruto know the information he did? And the only real answer available to him is to disclose Kashin Koji's 10 Directions Shinjutsu, and here is the reason why. If he says nothing, then he's running the risk of Kawaki continuing to paint him as a threat, because he can say Boruto is working with the otsutuski, namely Momoshiki, which it is important to remember this bit of context, since fans from what I keep seeing, they keep forgetting a minor but also major detail when it comes to how Omnipotence works. Again, I will refer you to Omnipotence Explained if you're still confused. Konoha has the memories of Boruto and Kawaki swap. In their mind, Kawaki should have Momoshiki, and when Omnipotence was still fresh on their minds, they questioned, why doesn't Kawaki have Momoshiki's chakra? Why does Kawaki have the body of a cyborg when none of Naruto's biological children ever have been experimented on and turned into cyborgs? However, as more time passes by, they stop questioning it and they just blanket accept it. No questions asked. There were no more questions being brought up, which is why Kawaki can openly use Ishiki's dojutsu, he can use his ninja tech in his body, and he can go and get repairs done by Amado as time goes on, casually walking into Amado's lab for maintenance the same way that I can go into my car dealership and get free oil changes that I get as part of the deal I got when I purchased the car. Nobody bats an eye there, which means nobody is going to question that accusation that Kawaki is making, and he has every reason to do so. He wants to continue stacking the deck against Boruto to make it easier to kill him. That's why he took the time to say, hey, Boruto is here at the site of the murdered Jonin. He's walking around this village right now. He is working with the invaders because Kawaki was framing him for something Boruto didn't do. Nothing new there. During a time where the elders are telling Shikamaru that it doesn't matter that Boruto saved Konoha. That kill on sight order, it is still in effect. And Konohamaru, he was jumping down Boruto's throat, basically saying the same thing. He wanted the smoke as soon as he saw Boruto, and Boruto looked at that boy and said, you ain't got no smoke detectors, man. Talking all tough like you ain't got an inhaler in your other hand right there. Boruto's only option right now, for being honest, in order to avoid all of that, is to say the information about Kashin Koji, and that alone is enough to get Amado to verify that such a power does exist, because he's the one who transplanted the Shinjutsu via Shibi cells into Kashin Koji. It's not going to be enough just to have Ada be asked to verify that Kashin Koji told Boruto this information, and here's why. She can see everything in the past up to her moment of birth 19 years ago. But as we saw in part 1, her eyes, that she, compared to the surveillance cameras, they have blind spots. She wasn't able to see Kawaki when he shrank himself down, far too small for her to be seen by him. She wasn't able to see Momoshiki and Boruto's conversation when Momoshiki froze time before he took over Boruto's body during the code fight. She's not able to see the future that Kashin Koji saw, the possible futures, because again, it's a possible future. Because when he sees those possible futures, they don't exist anymore once different decisions get made. She isn't going to be able to confirm if such a thing is possible, but if Amado would be able to confirm all that information, this is where it's going to get interesting. What is Amado's goal? He wants to revive his daughter using Kawaki's coma seal, and most importantly, he's desperate about doing so. He said it himself. He has no idea if his plan will work or not, but who will be able to tell him? Kashin Koji. It's starting to make sense why Amado chose that power to give Kashin Koji, someone who was working close with Amado, until Amado saw that he was expendable, because by that point he hadn't awakened the power yet. And you can look at it and tell he hoped that Kashin Koji would awaken it at some point. As a scientist, you have a theory that you put into place. However, theories, they still have to be tested, and they're just educated guesses with no confirmation if they work or not until they get tested multiple times against multiple different variables. A power such as this, it cuts down on the what if aspect, because Kashin Koji will be able to see every possible future based on what Amado does with his plan to revive his daughter. That's information Amado can take and tweak his approach to be more efficient, just as Kashin Koji was able to do the same with Boruto's training, which is how Boruto got that unnatural boost in power and skill with only 2 years of training with Kashin Koji. He streamlined it and made it more efficient. Amado might be regretting betraying Kashin Koji, but after he is somehow able to, in a very slimy and sussy and sleazy way, manage a way to get out from underneath Shikamaru's scorn once again for withholding information after he and Naruto told him, hey, put all your cards on the table, stop holding back information. Kashin Koji is someone who assisted a threat to Konoha in the form of Boruto, which again is dramatic irony. I have to remind people of that, because anytime I say Boruto's a threat to Konoha, people get triggered. It's dramatic irony. We know Boruto's not a threat, but characters in universe outside of those who know the truth about omnipotence, they don't know. He's also someone they will need in order to defend against the threat of the Shinju, and Amado has shown us that when it comes to his own goals, there are no lines that he's afraid to cross, particularly when it comes to his daughter, which is why that's so interesting, because this is a framework set in place for a very extremely messy conflict, and it's going to create more conflict. And depending on how Amado's character is handled from here, he's either going to be the madman who planned everything, or he's going to be the typical trope of the brilliant scientist who made a bad decision and made things worse, which for now, we don't know how that's going to play off. Not like we know how the payoff for Jujutsu Kaisen's newest plot twist took place, with the manga now ending in 4 more chapters. So click here to watch my review over on Anime Explained, or click here for the latest Boruto chapter review if you've not seen that yet.